like I say, we are in for a treat. We've actually got the wonderful Sharon Smith, who's actually founder of the Mentoring Hub, where I'm strategic lead, along with a very lovely team of people who work on this. Sharon is a great presenter and a dual award Microsoft MVP, and also a team member with myself at Capgemini as well. So I'd like you all to give a very warm welcome to Sharon. And Sharon, welcome, my friend. It's over to you.
Thank you very much, Keith. Absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you for the lovely warm introduction. As Keith said, my name is Sharon Smith. I am a dual business applications MVP. I work at Capgemini like Keith does. And I'm very blessed to have Keith alongside me in the Mentoring Hub, which it's a charity that, well, hopefully we're still waiting for the application to get through, but we're looking to provide mentoring services to people who are either career switchers, like we both are, or basically also help people who are first-time speakers. So, which is something I was a couple of years ago, actually, and I had the delight of actually speaking here on the New Zealand BizApps Summit virtually this time last year, and it was my first international session, so thank you very much for having me back again. So what I'm just going to do is, let me just share my slides, get my slideshow going. Actually, I think I need to do that second. You have to excuse me. I am actually in a hotel room, so I apologise if the Wi-Fi is a wee bit on the dodgy side. I've actually been down. Hopefully, you can see my my PowerPoint presentation now. Somebody could give me just a thumbs up. Yep, looking good. Wonderful. Thanks, Keith. I'm actually down in Bristol. I normally live west of London in the UK, but I'm currently down in Bristol because I was down here supporting another member of our strategic leading team at the Mentoring Hub, Amy Hemingway, who was speaking with her own actual manager down for the Southwest UK user group. So if I have a few problems with the Wi-Fi, it's because I'm actually in a hotel room at the moment. Anyway, what I'm actually here to speak to you about is effectively intelligent apps, and to try and demystify them for you, because what we've had is we've had a lot of buzzwords recently. Intelligent apps, agentic AI, and something that came out of Ignite last week was these frontier firms. And so what I wanted to do is just to bring you a little bit up to date on what all of this means, because I presented this session in London at the all-day user group in the UK on Monday, and I was actually quite surprised how many people hadn't actually, kept up or hadn't actually heard of a lot of this. But it's not surprising because it's moving at such a fast pace. It really is moving at an amazingly fast pace at the moment. As I said, this is me. If you want to connect with me, that's my LinkedIn QR code that you can see there on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you have the QR code that takes you to my website and temporary website for our Mentoring Hub. So what exactly are intelligent apps? So basically what you're actually looking at is you're looking at apps which are data-driven. And this might actually sound obvious, but because we're all used to working in Dynamics, or like I do, or in the Power Platform, and everything that we actually do must have data sitting underneath it, whether or not that data is coming from a SQL Server on-prem, or Dataverse in the cloud, or a SharePoint list. It's got to be data-driven. What these intelligent apps do, though, is they take that to another level. They actually allow you to access unstructured data and data via Dataverse into this operational intelligence. So you can actually pick and choose where your data is. You're no longer restricted to just Dataverse. You can bring data knowledge in from other places, and this could be from to augment other business applications data that you have in Dataverse from, say, a SharePoint site. it can also be external as well. So it really does open up what you can actually access, but within the bounds and the boundaries of the security of the Microsoft Power Platform. What you'll see when we look at one of the other slides as we go through is we actually build on top of that data layer with access to LLMs, large language models, but also SLMs, small language models as well, where this is machine learning that enables a dynamic workflow, the predictive actions that actually respond to changing conditions. So a lot of people talk about the app learning, but it's, as we'll see later, it's not necessarily that it is learning, it's more that it has memory. Now, you can train these LLMs, these large language models, to become context aware, and that's where we come down into looking at things like the Microsoft Graph, which is the connector between the large language model and something called other layers that are sitting now on top of the Microsoft Graph. It's getting quite complicated, the kind of like hierarchy structure. So things like an MCP, instead of having a connector, an API that we're used to, you now have a model context protocol, which it effectively it's like a super API. It allows you to connect in and do transformation in a much easier way. And then you've got this thing called Work IQ. My apologies, that should be the other way around, not QI. Work IQ, which is something that we'll get onto on one of our future slides, because similarly, this is a new way of using the graph to access context-aware information. Work IQ is actually your M365 context. That's the context that you're bringing in from your teams. It could be information that you've actually got sitting in PowerPoint presentations that you've been working with, who's viewed them, in addition to the actual file itself, which would obviously be sitting in SharePoint. But there's a huge amount of additional contextual information about Outlook, about when you're accessing your emails, about who's replied to emails, who's opened them. All of that contextual information is going to be sitting in the Work IQ, which you can then connect into using the Microsoft Graph and bring that information down to combine it with your Dataverse data and your LLMs to give this huge rounded knowledge, for want of a better word, that Copilot and agents can actually access. And the learning isn't learning in the way that you and I learn, because it's repetitive. So it's more like them getting used to it. They don't necessarily are able to, these intelligent apps are not able to make those, well, not at the moment, make those kind of like step change leaps, those like light bulb moments that we get when we are learning. What they do is that over time their responses improve because they're getting used to answering the same questions in the same way. It's repetitive. They learn what the next best words or the next best response should be. So this originally I was hoping would be like a triangle for you going up, so that you could see that what you've got effectively is what I've just talked you through, is Dataverse on the bottom, and now we also have Foundry IQ and Fabric IQ. So in the same way as I described what Work IQ is, you will have the equivalent for Fabric IQ, which would do the same for all the different elements that you have inside Fabric, like Power BI, like your data lake, and also similarly Foundry IQ. Now, that's really going to be quite interesting to see what that does, because that's where your heavier enterprise level agents tend to get built in the Microsoft Azure Foundry or whatever it's called this week. So what exactly Foundry IQ looks like yet, we're not quite sure. We've been given quite detailed explanations about what work IQ does, but not necessarily, not yet, or certainly not what I've seen yet for Foundry IQ. So that's going to be one to have on your Christmas reading list for after Christmas lunch, I'm sure. Then, as I said, MCP, Model Context Protocol, something that we're becoming more and more used to hearing about, these configurable bridges between your line of business systems, cloud services, bringing it up into these autonomous and multi-agent flows that you can build out in Copilot Studio, that you can now build out in M365 Copilot, that effectively you're being given the opportunity to build them almost anywhere. We now have vibe coding as well. I was very privileged to get a demonstration at the Bristol User Group of vibe coding by Adrian Cole, and it was, if I'm honest with you, it was a bit scary. It was a little bit like computer use, where you put your prompt in effectively and it went off and it was doing it for you, and you were seeing all the screens changing as if seeing the prompt going, you seeing make.powerups open, seeing tables and being built in front of you as if you were watching a video, but it was actually our normal portal doing it for you. That is the power of autonomous agents. And then the very top level, the conversational AI, what we've become very used to over the last year, 18 months, 2 years, our Copilot, and now our Copilot chat. So, as I said, if we go back down, Dataverse, that's your operational backbone. That's, ensures you get that enterprise grade security, access control, data protection standards across everything that we do. This is absolutely essential. We talk about this cutting edge applications, but this is the future. If you actually bring it down to where most of us are actually working with our clients at the moment, if we're already working in partners, or we're inside on the client side, or if we're contractors or whomever, what we're actually can be working on the day-to-day basis can look very, very different to what we're actually seeing being announced and being showcased at events such as Ignite. But it is coming. And the important thing is that we actually understand what is actually coming. Our clients might say, no, we're absolutely not touching anything to do with AI at the moment until, Microsoft has got a sovereign cloud in the UK, for example, here, which it hasn't yet, but I'm sure it's coming. But until they see the guardrails in place, it's the risk versus benefit for them is too high. But we need to understand and to plan for the future now. Understand, learn these functionalities, so that, because things can change very quickly, and all of a sudden you will find that as soon as they are comfortable that the security is in place and that everything is secure, and they've had those reassurances, they will want everything now. They will see what can be delivered, and then they will say, yes, can I have that now? And that's why it's so important to actually understand these functionalities and learn how they actually work ahead of time, or ahead of when you think that you may be delivering it. And as I said, these language models, they are not knowledge models in the way that we know knowledge. And I am giving credit here for this slide and the next slide to our wonderful Capgemini, where we are ourselves provided essential training on AI. It's extremely important that everybody within Capgemini receives this mandatory training. And on generative AI, I loved this slide that I just had to share it with you, because it absolutely, the slides will be shared. Absolutely, but feel free to take a screenshot to have them today, ahead of when they'll get shared after the event, because this goes to the heart of what I was saying. These LLMs, they aren't learning, they start off as a foundational model. So anything that you will connect into, as like OpenAI or ChatGTP or Claude or whoever it is that is actually providing you with that functionality, it is a foundational model to begin with, and it will have been trained, provisioned initially on large generic amounts of information, effectively what is on the web at the moment. And we all know how limited that is to reality, in as much as it's it's a high percentage in English, it's a high percentage on certain cultures, on certain sexual, more male dominated content than female dominated content, and the limited languages. All of that you need to take into consideration, because that's not what the real world is like. So you need to train these foundational models. That might be what you're starting with, but think about the context of what you're wanting to use your intelligence app for. Are you going to need to actually use that to reach a global audience? If so, how do you train that on the type of information that would actually make it ethical to everybody? So a good friend of mine actually trains within the community, actually trains the models on information from WhatsApp, because that information is gold, because it's contextual. We're so used to using LinkedIn in the UK and I presume in New Zealand, although that's my presumption, for doing a lot of unprofessional communication. There are countries around the world that do not use LinkedIn at all. I believe Ukraine does not use LinkedIn at all. It uses Telegraph, I think it is, but it also uses WhatsApp. So we have to think about, where are we actually going to get our information? Where are we going to get our data that we're going to train these models on? Then we do that alignment, that tweaking with the expected human response. This is where you bring in those ethical and legal dimensions that we're talking about. We've had some very interesting conversations here within Capgemini, with Paul Harrison, our CTO in Europe. What does that ethical look like? And he's written some very good articles about how do you actually bring ethics into generative AI. Microsoft itself has done a lot of work in this area, but it's something that we all need to be thinking about, because that's what you're doing. I mean, it might say on this slide that it's optional, the alignment and fine tuning. That's one of the things I actually disagree with, because I think we've got to, else it's not ethical and it's not contextual to the audience you're providing it, the app, and what the app's service is delivering to. And then, of course, it's iterative. You will find that you can put the same prompt in more than once, and it will give you a different answer straight back again. And so this is where you've got to learn how to be prompt engineers. And that's one of the courses that we get to go on, is to learn how to actually improve our prompting. And once you actually do, and believe me, it does make a difference. You think that you're a good prompter, but then you realize that that there is an art to it. Like in many parts of life, you do get better with training. So, as I said, Microsoft 365 Copilot and Work IQ. This is something that came out of Ignite last week. It's still something that we're all starting to understand what exactly that means. As it says here on this slide, it's about data, memory, but more importantly, the inferences that you can actually draw from that data. The QR code that you got there takes you to this particular article, so that you can actually read up more on Work IQ itself. It's something that I've had one read through on, and it's definitely something that I feel I need to read more on. I'm not going to spend too much time on there, but what I will do is I'd like to actually share this slide with you, and I'd like to give a good call out to our good friend in the community, Gulshan, who actually signposted me to this, because I wasn't sure when I was speaking on Monday whether or not at that point I didn't have it clear in my head what the difference between Work IQ and the Microsoft Graph was, in as much as I wasn't sure whether or not what we were seeing was that this term Work IQ was actually going to be replacing the Microsoft Graph. And I was very pleased to, get signposted to the article that, again, those QR codes will take you to. And if I get it right, the one on the left is the actual article. The one on the right should be the LinkedIn post from the Microsoft product owner, I believe it was, who put out this particular blog post explaining the difference between Work IQ and Microsoft Graph. And as it says there, you can see Work IQ provides the contextual information, the intelligence, the reasoning, within like the Copilot customer agents, and the graph is effectively, I suppose it's closer to an MCP than it is actually Microsoft Graph itself. I still would like better diagrams than I've actually seen so far. This is helpful, but I still would like one of those nice kind of like UK London tube map type diagrams to actually show me exactly how this is all going to work. More bedtime reading there. I'm going to, just in the interest of time, kind of like not spend too much time talking about Copilot and autonomous agents themselves, because I think it's something that hopefully you should all be quite aware of. We know that we've got Copilot Studio. That's where we go and build our agents now, or one of the places that we can build our agents, and certainly the place to go to for multi-agent workflows. Perfect for building those repetitive, logic-driven tasks. More lightweight tasks, more personal assistant tasks, go straight to M365. It's nice and quick and easy, and I believe it's now been renamed M365 Lite or Copilot Studio Lite, which is effectively a light version of the more full version that you get with Copilot Studio. Every single time, though, whatever you build, always make sure that there is a human in the loop to have that oversight. Eventually, I think we will actually get to the point where we can just be happy to leave the autonomous agents doing what they need to do without there being a human in the loop in certain elements. But I think a multi-agent workflow, you are always going to want to have a checkpoint at some place. The multi-agents can do many things for us. It might you might have an agent who is effectively the orchestrator that is handing off different tasks. So in the same way as we have specialists who do this in teams, that we have, for example, a solution architect, a developer, a tester, a trainer, somebody who is an expert on adoption. That is effectively what you will need to do and replicate for your multi-agent workflows. Don't just have one big workflow agent trying to do everything. Break it down in the same way as we have teams of specialists. That is exactly the model that you're seeing here. So this is, as I was trying to actually explain with regards to with regards to the type of diagram that I want to see for all of these work IQs and Foundry IQs and Fabric IQs. We have this, which is absolutely wonderful for the Microsoft Copilot for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, which actually shows you the Copilot architecture and responsible AI principles, which I am hoping that we will have coming very soon, is the equivalent of this to explain exactly how all the IQs fit in with the graph, but I'm sure it will come. Something that I'm very passionate about is, as you would expect, obviously, is well-architected intelligent apps. The well-architected framework is, for those of you who aren't aware of it, it is something which was introduced originally within Azure and the Azure cloud. And as it says here, you can see here on this slide, it's all about ensuring that the apps that you're actually building are relatable, they're reliable, they have those security boundaries in place. You can ensure that they have operational excellence. And a lot of what you see here is what Keith was actually talking about for those of you who were in his session before me, and all of those tips that he actually gave to actually ensure that your apps are actually working in a reliable and optimal way. Their architecture patterns come into and from the well-architected framework. So what you were seeing from Keith effectively is the outcome and the output of an intelligent app that has been well architected to the standards that we expect it to produce. What we haven't seen again yet is taking this well architected framework and putting it within the automated apps, the intelligent agents. That's still to come. And I just think it's because the reason we haven't got it yet is because this is almost moving at such a fast pace when you think about where we are now in comparison to 2 years ago. Completely, what I saw earlier this evening, completely different, completely transformed. And I think one of the things that I am seeing in the wider community that is being asked is more documentation to actually take us on this journey and help us along on this journey. And I think that message is going back to Microsoft on a regular basis, and I'm sure the same is happening with other major players such as ServiceNow, which is another big partner of Microsoft, and the other big players. So, as I said, well-architected intelligent apps. This is just kind of like giving you a little bit more of a breakdown of exactly what that diagram means. And as I said, what we popped in on the bottom is the can't say that word tonight, artificial intelligence, incorporating discriminative or generative AI models into your workload for predictive analysis, generating content and other AI use cases. That's descriptive. What exactly does that look like in the same format of the other well-architected elements that we have there? Because that's, as you can see, it describes what AI is, but if you look at any of the other well-architected elements, it says what it does is in order to protect the workload, to reduce issues, to create meaningful and useful experiences. Everything elsewhere, it's talking about how it changes and how it ensures that you're actually getting a good app, a good experience at the end of the day. Whereas what we've got at the moment for AI is just a descriptive of what it does. There is much more coming along. I know that there's a big area of interest in the whole secure AI side of things, and so I'm sure that it will come. So another one of those big, as I said, one of the things we were looking to do here is the demystification of these buzzwords, frontier firms. So what actually is a frontier firm? Well, at the end of the day, if you look at this, it's an organization that deploys AI across its whole organization, that it uses it to close the capacity gap between business demands and human limitations. I had thought that the term agent boss had gone away, but it seems to be creeping back again. Not one that I'm in favour of, I have to admit. But to my mind, when I read through the Work Trend Index and a lot of the context and document articles around this idea of frontier firms, it is a trailblazer. It's the organisations who are there at the front who are in the position to be able to deploy AI organisation wide. To my mind, although I've seen some big names, I'd question whether or not we're actually looking at this happening at an enterprise level. Because normally at an enterprise level, you can't move that fast. I'm sure that there are some who are using AI to close the capacity gap somewhat, but how extensive that is in comparison to creating the kind of apps that we're used to creating using the Power Platform. I've heard some very good like use case stories from Microsoft customers, but I don't think that the frontier firm is hugely wide yet, and I'm whether or not it's a term that we will still have in a year's time, we'll have to wait and see. Now, again, I'm going to give credit to Paul Harrison from Capgemini for these 3 horizons of AI transformation, because this is where we bring it from theory, and what I've been talking about to you for the first half of this session, into actual practical use, and into what you will actually see in the Dynamics 365 applications, which is where my specialization lies. And I would actually encourage everybody to, if you don't work in Dynamics, to actually, spin up a free trial and nose around and have a look at the agents that are in there. Because Microsoft's put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into its out-of-the-box agents that it is making available in all its first-party apps. One of my specialist areas is the sales app. You will also have the customer service, which is now called Copilot Service Workspace, obviously. Then you have field service, and you have what used to be the marketing app, but now is customer insight. And you can actually, I've talked to people about agents that they're building using Copilot Studio, Microsoft's Copilot Studio, and what they're looking to do with them, connecting them up to data such as WhatsApp, or basically forms that they're bringing in, for example, and analyzing the information. And quite often, when I listen to what they're describing, their custom agents that they're building, it's just exactly what Dynamics does. The apps that Dynamics do. And when I actually then talk about, well, have you thought, for example, if you have an RFQ, a request for quotation, you have a partner, a client, who is asking you to effectively bid to provide a piece of work, and you put that information together for the RFQ, or provide them with a schedule of works, and you can use an agent to create that and submit that. But you don't want to keep on just providing exactly the same information, time in, time out, time in, time out. Yes, you can now, it's something which autonomous agents can help with greatly and hugely speed up how quickly you can get that RFQ out of the door, or how quickly you can get a marketing brief done. But you need to learn whether or not that lands. Was it successful? Was it not successful? If it wasn't successful, where's the feedback? Why wasn't it successful? You need a research agent. And that's what we're actually starting to, we have those out of the box agents in the Dynamics apps. Now, there may be good reasons that you don't want to have Dynamics. It is a first party app. You need premium licenses for them, but you can spin up a trial, have a look at them, learn from the way that their sales agents are working, how their sales qualification agent is working, how their researcher agent is working, which we'll have a look at in a minute, and replicate this. Recreate them yourself in Microsoft Copilot Studio, in Foundry. They are a wonderful source of knowledge for you to actually go and look at. And these are effectively the three horizons of AI transformation. So when we're actually talking about intelligence apps, when we're talking about these frontier firms, what does a frontier firm look like? Well, most of us are probably on horizon one, regardless of whether or not we call ourselves a frontier firm or not. And we're using Microsoft Copilot for sales, for example. So you've got your Copilot embedded in the places where you normally work, Outlook, Teams. You will probably get used to seeing Copilot everywhere. It gives you instant access to your CRM data inside Teams. Company insights, if you have done Teams meetings with a client, there would be a summary available to you and actions and next steps all created by Copilot. All of that contextual information, as I was talking about earlier, is going to be available to pull together to prepare for meetings. So when we were talking about the work IQ, for example, this is what this means. All this information here that human sellers can then quickly, grasp hold of to prepare for having those in-person meetings. Let the agent do the heavy lifting for you while you actually bring the quality to the conversation. Horizon 2, this is where the AI evolves into that collaborative partner. Now, the sales app is one of the most excellent of all of them to show you this, because what it can do, it is at Horizon 2, it can monitor pipeline health. It can basically suggest proactive actions. It can look at, for example, you haven't had any contact with this particular client for 3 weeks. They didn't respond to your last email or your last WhatsApp message, and it can suggest draft an email, a follow-up email for you, taken into consideration when it's doing the drafting, all that contextual information that it's got sitting inside your Dynamics Dataverse, and also other data sources like all those meetings that you are having on Teams, all that information that's sitting in the work IQ. So that, whereas we're probably all, or a lot of us are at 1, it wouldn't take much to go to 2. The tools are out there, and that's something that a lot of us as organizations can move towards quite easily. 3 is, that's the frontier. From my mind, this is where AI manages the whole entire end-to-end sales process with minimal oversight. So it will decide, obviously, with any of this, you are defining what the parameters are that it is working to inside your agents. So when it says here, it qualifies the leads, well, you have to actually tell the sales qualification agent when you're actually configuring it, what does a qualified lead look like? So we're quite used to, within dynamic sales, working with effectively a figure, a calculated amount, that once you get to a certain level, that is regarded as qualified. So it might be 60, for example, 60 points. And those 60 points might be made up of it gets it being the account gets 5 points, or the lead gets 5 points for this engagement, 10 points for answering an email or having a meeting. Again, you're accumulating points for engagement that shows an interest and a willingness to actually move from being just a possible sale to going into a natural opportunity where they are now ready to actually receive a proposal from you for whatever your business is, of this is what we can provide you, service, product, whatever that looks like. So even though we're saying that the sales qualification agent can actually manage the entire sales process end to end, it can only do that if you give it the tools itself to do that. And those tools are, what is that context? What does qualified lead mean? That is your prompt. That is your description of the agents that will sit under your orchestrating sales qualification agent to do the qualification of the lead, to manage the deal progression. Each element that you're reading here, the coordinating across, the different elements, different individual agents doing that. So this is what the dynamic sales looks like when it living inside Microsoft 365. It can do effectively all of this for you, just with you living inside M365. I kind of feel like this is becoming almost like a combination of Outlook and Teams, what you can do in both of those, bundled together in M365 chat. And again, you can see you've got your prompt on the way that you actually create the tools for this, and then you can move in seamlessly into creating the emails. All of this is just happening inside, M365. So again, that QR code takes you to the blog post where you can actually watch this animation go through, and it explains exactly what's happening. The only reason I've provided you with this is I don't actually have access to this at the moment. Not quite sure why though, because it is supposed to be available for everybody. What I do have access to, that we're actually now going to flip out into, is Dynamics 365 Sales, as you can see, because it's saying welcome. So I'm going to stop sharing that for a moment. I'm going to come into my tenant and make sure that that is sitting where I want it to sit, and then just share again. And hopefully you're seeing my tenant now. So what this is this is just a normal Dynamics Sales trial sandbox. The information that you're going to be seeing in here is just Microsoft's standard trial data. So nothing confidential here at all. The only problem that you do have with the trial data is that it's minimal, 36 records or something like that. But what you can do is you can actually use Copilot to create yourself additional records that you can then import as a CSV file to give you a more bulk of information to be able to allow the AI agents to do their work. One of the wonderful things that you have when you come into the Dynamics 365 Sales Hub is for those of you who are used to working in model-driven apps, you'll be used to this changing of areas. Normally, you would start off automatically loading yourself into the normal sales app itself, where you have your accounts and your contacts and your leads. And apologies, a little bit slow to come up. This is the joys of being on a hotel Wi-Fi. But as you can see, good old A Datum Corporation, which anybody who has brought up a sales app, my apologies, that's not supposed to actually come up, but unfortunately I can't stop that because I'm in the Teams presenting. Should turn that notification off though, so my apologies for that. But as you can see, this is your account information, and what you now have is the sales research agent, and that is what you saw the screenshot of. And this is something that I have actually presented on many, many times, because this is actually Project Sophia. It's something which you can actually play around with separately from the not if you don't have to have a Dynamics license. You can just go to www or https Project Sophia preview or previewprojectsophia.com, and you will see what you get there is exactly this, the sales research agent, because Project Sophia was an infinite canvas, research canvas, as you can see here, that was the brainchild of a Microsoft VP. She spent many years working on it, and it was very much a solution looking for a home. And they did attempt to put it into the Copilot 4 applications, like Copilot 4 Sales, Copilot 4 Service, which are the additional SKUs that you can actually buy on top of the normal out-of-the-box premium licenses and premium apps. But it just didn't plan out. So I was extremely happy to actually see that they had turned Project Sophia or part of Project Sophia into the sales research agent, and this is where it's living. And you can access this now as part of a trial. We'll have a quick look at that in a minute. But I just want to take you to the app settings, which is where you're used to actually, what you would normally used to be seeing is something like this. But what you now have, and this is something which is relatively new, is an AI hub, a Dynamics AI hub, which is amazing, that effectively straight in here, we were talking about on that, what is a frontier firm? What are those like Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3, where Copilot, so good old Copilot, that's your Horizon 1. This is where you come in to basically turn on Copilot as a feature, and that's it. That's all you need to do. It's there. And you now, in a similar way, have the same for AI. So when we're actually talking about intelligent apps, it's straight here being provided for you. And it really is quite simple. You can watch these videos for the sales qualification agent and the opportunity research agent. So if you imagine what we were talking about earlier, where we said, right, where do we start off with? We're basically starting off with, we want to qualify a lead. And so what you can do is you can say, I want to create and manage an agent. And as you can see, what I've already done is I've already actually gone in and created that sales qualification agent. That is Hosted Dev, the mentoring hub, unsurprisingly. And if I click on here, it takes you through to is a wizard. Now, what I have done is I have worked through each of these steps. And this is where what I would say is we haven't actually got the level of automation yet with the intelligent agents that we would all expect, because you are still needing to, where I said that you need to do the configuration of your agent in Copilot Studio. Well, imagine that this is effectively Copilot Studio wizard for you inside Dynamics. But there is still elements of it that if you're actually going through this, you have to go off elsewhere to do parts of it. Like you have to actually still register your agent in the same way as you would, register any sort of app out in Azure. And I would have expected this wizard to have been able to do that for you. but it didn't. It did actually, as I stepped through it, it does help. It does actually give you guidance about what you should do in each step. And let it load, like with the selection criteria, and you can see how you can set your goals. As we were saying, the status must equal open. What is a lead? The rating must equal cold, as in, it's not at this moment in time ready to qualify. The lead score does not equal certain things, like, for example, in this example of this sales qualification agent I'm looking at here, this is what you automatically get out of the box, by the way. It says the lead score does not equal an employee referral. So, for example, it's not a lead that has come through from somebody who works in your organization. So it's almost like this is where your agent starts, and then it works to build the qualification of the lead up from this point onwards. So as you can see, you still have to build, kind of like come in here and configure all of this. And but the wizard does make it easier, definitely for you. And what you also get at the beginning, though, is that human in the loop side of it. So this is where what you can do is you can say, right, I just wanted to be a research agent at the moment to begin with. And if that's the yes, then it, as you can see here, it will only just gather the insights, draft the emails, identify the leads that are the best fit to be the ones for you to chase. Whereas if you actually want it to do the engagement as well, you have to select that, and you have to then actually say, I want this level, so that then you can send the personalized emails, the agent can follow it, do up, it can take you. So again, this is more like Horizon 1, and this is more Horizon 2 going towards Horizon 3. So this has been quite interesting to do. It's very much available to you already on a trial. Go in here, work your way through all this. It will the useful thing I see for this is, you can use it to learn about agents and to demonstrate what the art of the possible is as far as a proof of concept, because remember, this is still preview. So it's not something that you should be putting and using in production, but you can show your clients what's coming. And once it actually goes into GA, you'll be ready to effectively buzz your way through this based on their SAL and get it out there. But also you can see what this wizard is doing at each step of the way and transfer that over into Copilot Studio to build out your own version. Another learning tool. So just to finish off, I am going to pop back here because I can't resist, I'm afraid to say, showing you the beauty that is Project Sophia. So this is sitting on my data, and effectively what it is doing here is, as you can see here, it says we are configuring your data, and what it's actually doing here is it's connecting into my Dataverse, and because it is in the sales hub, it will be bringing in the sales data. Unfortunately, this is clearly the Wi-Fi here, because this had no problem basically connecting in on Monday. What you also will have here is something that says add data. Once you have one, once you've connected in with your Dataverse data, you can then add additional data in. And one of the prime kind of benefits that you can have with this research canvas is you've got your sales data, and that's obviously what your your sales agents and your sales supervisors are working on based on your account information, your contact information, information that you have on competitors, all that historical and contextual information. Bring in something like a Forrester's report or any of the marketing guru type reports which are saying or predicting where markets in certain industries are going. What does 2026 look like for retail or for a certain part of retail? You can bring that contextual information in to this canvas. You don't have to store it in Dataverse. You just basically add it in as a CSV file in here. And then what you would then be able to do is when you click, unfortunately, it says I haven't added any data, but that is wrong. But what would happen is once you've actually got that information that you've added in here, what it will do is it will actually give you this research data. Let me just make that a little bit smaller. And what you would have is if it had loaded my data in, on the left-hand side, it would have had all the contextual information for you. And it would give you the kind of information that you would give to the C-suite. So it would actually give you that how your particular, whatever the question that you ask it, the question that you prompt it at the beginning, because what I clicked on was just one of the prompts, and it was like, what does my pipeline look like? So it would tell you what your pipeline looked like. It would say what your strongest account is, what your weak account is, and all the information that you should normally actually get down there would be easily lifted up and put into a board report, for example. And then what normally comes in here are slides, effectively Power BI slides and graphs that, again, very easy to lift and shift into a report to give the visuals that a lot of people benefit from, because we all consume data in different ways. So again, what I would suggest you do is come in here and play with this, because the beauty of this is when it's actually working and you get all this information, you can iterate on that information. As you can see here, you've got your standard type of Copilot iteration where you can ask, it gives you prompts, starter prompts to begin with. You can click on that, it takes that starter prompt in here, and then you can, for example, research opportunities for growth in the retail market. You can extend it out to whatever you want to ask for, and that will then iterate onto this blueprint. And what would normally happen is it would take you off either going horizontally out that way or vertically down, and it would give you another blueprint. Each one of these boxes is called a blueprint. It would give you another blueprint based on that next question. And the nice thing of you doing that is that you have each one of these little blueprints effectively all on this, what they call an infinite canvas, so that you can then basically see and compare them side by side by side. So that is basically the dynamics and the intelligent apps inside Dynamics that you can learn from. Just pop us back onto the slides one last minute, and just take you down to say a thank you to our sponsors. So I'm going to be handing over to the next speaker now, but what I'd like to do is just say a thank you to the sponsors. We've got Stratos H, to our Microsoft Teal and the Dynamics user groups. I'm actually a sponsor now myself for events similar to the summit here. And it is a lot of hard work being a sponsor. So please do, if you do get the opportunity, just to reach out to these people and thank them for what they're doing here, because it is a big commitment being a sponsor. It's a lot of admin being a sponsor. And I know that they, like us, are passionate about making sure that these events can be made available to all of us to learn from for free. So please do thank them because they do a wonderful job. And
Cool. Thank you
that
very
really
much,
was
Sharon.
me.
Sorry, I've been listening to your session in the background quietly, and yeah, it's been really insightful and really good. I really appreciate you staying up till midnight, I think it is in the
Yes,
UK
it
right
is.
now.
It is. Yes.
So thank you very much for all the effort, and like it was a fantastic session. I sort of jumped in and out from Mike to Keith to your session, and I really like the succession that you have and how close you guys are to each other and how you refer to each other's material. Obviously, Group Capgemini, there's a lot
Yep.
of work that we do as a community across the globe, and I really love all those movements. So thank you very much.